Salut les amis, bienvenue à Munich, ici pour le salon High-End 2023. Ça commence aujourd'hui. On voit derrière moi ce beau bus impérial de nos amis de chez Cambridge Audio. Alors le parrain cette année, on l'aperçoit sur l'affiche, c'est Meola. Meola, guitariste de jazz fusion, guitariste de légende, vraiment un des pionniers du genre. Alors il a notamment sorti un disque de légende, un live de légende en 1980, Friday Night in San Francisco avec John McLaughlin et Paco de Lucia. Alors il sera en conférence de presse tout à l'heure, on va peut-être y faire un tour. Je vous dis à très vite, bye bye.
Here you are.
Hello, I'm Sylvain from Vibrasonic France. In 1980, you released the landmark album of yours along with John McLaughlin and Paco de Lucia. Do you think that such good sounding records still can be put out today with the cost and the difficulty to record all analog, you know? Do you think...
Speak just a little bit clearer and louder.
Yeah. Do you think that such good sounding records can still be recorded today, meaning for a mainstream audience?
Well, I mean, most recordings are made with Pro Tools today, right?
Yeah, sure.
The debate between digital and analog is still ongoing. It's gotten better, digital, in some ways. I've talked to several very well-known engineers, and maybe 10 years ago they would have said, well, hands down analog. But now these same very well-known and respected engineers like Frank Filippetti and people of that, that standard, they said it depends on the engineer. Yeah. You can get as good, as digital. It depends who's, controlling everything. That's the general consensus. And of course you have all the advantages of editing and manipulation of notes. The possibilities are pretty amazing. I come from the analog era, and I still, like if I'm doing a more simplistic recording where it only involves a couple of acoustic instruments, and like I did a tribute to the Beatles at Abbey Road some 12 years ago. And it was a phenomenal experience because so much of their wiring and their microphones and everything are still there, and their rooms acoustically are designed and stayed intact instead of redesigned. So I got the best of what I wanted out of that. But they were all set up for Pro Tools. It was everything's been, in that sense, been modernized in the control room. Yeah. But I said to them, I want to record like the Beatles. And they all looked at one another in shock because they hadn't done anything analog, and I don't know how long. So when I proposed the question to them, could I record like 8-track? And they looked at one another like, you really want to do that? I said, well, yeah. Those Beatle records sound phenomenal. Yeah, sure. Okay, really great, because they were doing less traction, wider bandwidth on the analog. So we did an A/B. Okay, sorry, A/B. We did an A/B between the digital and recorded at the same time, digital, and they set up an 8-track machine, which took forever. And we sat there and went, the 8-track analog, it's pretty damn good. Now, if this was 16-track, it would be less good, and 24-track would definitely work not as good. That was my assessment in the end.
Yeah, it depends on the context of the recording. Yeah.
And recently, during the COVID year, I discovered tapes I've had from 1980 with John McLaughlin and Paco de Lucia. And we did 2 nights in San Francisco at the end of a 2-month tour. And I had these tapes for 40 some odd years, plus years, in a storage room. Didn't know if they were still up to par, so we had them restored professionally. A.B. Fon had, after I restored them, we had them restored again at Skywalker, and brought out the quality like you can't imagine. I think this is the #1 restoring facility in the United States, if not the world, right? And A.B. really went out on a limb to help preserve the sound and bring it to a level that it maybe even surpassed Friday Night in San Francisco when we did it 40-something years ago. So anyway, that was my project, and it took a lot of time to edit, to meet the vinyl sides, and then the 45, which will come out later this year, is going to be a whole other level of sound quality. Okay. So it was very important that she got all of the best benefits of the analog tape. You know, it was all about that, because, you know, Impex Records is like the highest standard with audio quality that Manfred Eicher would even be, you know, impressed.
So there is a 45 version of Friday Night that will... There is a 45 version of Friday Night that will come out later on Impex?
I don't know, it's been remastered, Friday Night.
Okay.
Friday Night is already out on 45.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Saturday Night will be out next year.
Okay.
Saturday on 45.
Yeah, Friday Night was a record that Columbia Records, before it became Sony, it was called Columbia, and I already had an electric guitar persona, but I saw the benefits of doing something with John McLaughlin and Paco de Lucia that they didn't see, and surprisingly, the record after a 2-month tour sold 7 million records, and it's still talked about every day, that record. Yeah. So I had the Saturday night tapes and found other tracks that are not on Friday night,
okay,
which made a really good follow-up. It just took 40-something years.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.